Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Eric Hernandez and I'm in pain. You're listening to episode number 614. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I recently had a wisdom tooth removed. I talk about it on the show. I won't carry on much more here about it, but it's safe to say I'm trying to get this intro done before I just keel over from numbness and soreness all at the same time. Meds are kicking in. On this episode, we talk about the continuing Writers Guild of America strike that's been going on for more than 2 months, which also coincides now with the recently announced Screen Actors Guild, which as of July 14th of 2023, they will also be going on strike because they have also failed. Well, I should say negotiations between them and the studios have also failed, as it did with the Writers Guild of America. So for the time being, we're going to see what happens because a lot of the stuff in Hollywood is going to be shutting down. With Writers Guild, for the past 2 months, anything that was in the can has slowly been used up and dwindled. So there's not anything new that's being written at this point. And anything with actors, movies, TV shows, appearances, conventions, you name it. There's a whole bunch of stuff we cover on this, and all that's going to come to a halt as of Friday. And we have to see what happens. Hopefully these studios can figure out something along with the different guilds and, come to an agreement, ratify the contracts, and we'll be back to making stuff as per usual. And we can go back to, liking and disliking a bunch of other stuff. But we'll see what happens. We are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can find us under the podcast section. You can find us also on Rabblecast. Rabblecast.libsyn.com. It's kicking in, can you tell? You can also check out the show's Rabblecast Facebook fan page. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast. Email us, rabblecast@gmail.com. And of course, do not forget to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Rabblecast. Subscribe to the show, hit like, comment, share stories, share pictures, whatever you want to do. Be part of be part of the conversation, be part of the community. Let us know what's going on. Let us know what you think of the show. And we hope to keep bringing you shows week after week. Little known fact, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, when you start the episode, I was going to take the week off, more realistically. But I wanted to talk about the Screen Actors Guild strike. So I just wanted to get the episode recorded, done. Doug was nice enough to join me. I know I did a lot of rambling, so pardon me. But I hope you enjoy. And let's get into it.
You're recording, right?
Yes, I am, sir. Fair warning to anybody listening. I recently had oral surgery done, so if I sound a little weird, I'm on medication and my mouth hurts like fuck.
If it makes you feel any better, I fucked up my piriformis muscles, so I've been in pretty much solid pain for the last week or week and a half.
Wait,
so we're both pretty fucked up.
How'd you do that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I woke up with it and I was like, apparently I slept on funny or something.
Okay. For anybody wondering, I had a wisdom tooth pulled, and it was my first one. And everybody's saying that, oh, you should have had them pulled in your late 20s, your early 30s. Well, my dentist told me if it's not bothering you, I'm not going to touch it. Okay. Oh,
Did it start bothering you?
Yeah, last year it gave me a toothache. At the time, he goes, if you want to pull it, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just leave it as is. And after looking at the x-rays, nothing looked to be dire. But second go around, it started bothering me again. So I said, you know what? Get rid of the bastard. I went in on Tuesday, got it taken out. He, thankfully he was very accommodating. I told him that, please gas me, shoot me up, whatever you have to do. Just, I don't want to feel anything. He goes, you got it. He gave me all the gas I could take. And I don't know if you've had laughing gas, right? Or nitrous?
Nope.
Really?
Never.
Okay. I'm sitting in the chair awaiting my descent into laughing gas numbness, and I can always tell once it starts working when the sounds of music over the PA start to like muddle and everything just becomes like a droning sound.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, all right, just let me know when you're ready. I'm like, all right, I'm just waiting for the gas to really kick in. And then afterwards, he gave me a couple shots. Thankfully, he didn't have to, I don't know, everybody's experience may differ when it comes to wisdom teeth. He went in and all he really did was start to yank the sucker out. I've heard people where they say because the way the roots grow, sometimes they have to like break it or crack it and they'll take it out in pieces.
Okay.
But he went in, clamped on the sucker and started pulling, but I could feel what he was doing. So I was like, hold on. He goes, you still feel that? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still feeling a bunch. He goes, all right, let me just give you a few more shots. We'll leave the gas at the regular level and we'll go in. Okay, no problem. Like about 5 minutes later, he's going in. And thankfully, this time around, I'm not feeling anything. But I could hear the tooth being ripped out of my gum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a sound I was quite ready to experience. I don't care if I was gassed up or not. I was like, oh God, that just sounds horrible. He goes, yeah, you're going to be a little bloody for a second. Just give me one moment. He did what he had to do. The procedure took like about a half hour, 45 minutes tops. The actual extraction of the tooth was like a minute. But
it sounds like it was completely erupted.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, yeah. They all are. That's the thing.
Okay.
All of my wisdom teeth came in, thankfully. Nothing was impacted. Nothing gave me trouble. I think like in maybe like my early 20s, I recall briefly having some kind of like tooth pain. I wasn't sure what it was at the time. And I really wasn't going to the dentist on a regular basis then. But in hindsight, that was probably like the first time I had a problem with my wisdom teeth. And that's when they were first coming in. But like I said, nothing was impacted. Nothing was causing me trouble at the time. Up until now, like there's crowding that's going on in the back of my molars. And this one just decided to be a pain in the ass. And before it causes any other problems, I said, just get rid of it. So he's like, all right, here's some ibuprofen. Here's some penicillin for it, just in case of infection. Just take those, take it easy, and don't do anything strenuous for the next few days. And I can tell you when I got home after the hour having the gauze in the back of my teeth, when I had to remove it, oh God, it was a bloody mess. And again, my first experience for this. My dentist experiences have not been, horrific up until this point in my life. So this is probably the worst I've seen it at all. And I'm happy to have the one done. I'm wondering if I'm going to have at least one or maybe the remaining 3 taken care of. We'll see what happens. I'm sure it's not something that anybody's dying to hear about down the line. Like, oh my God, he's going to get another tooth pulled. But yeah, the wrenching of it as he pulled it out and I saw the tooth afterwards. Oh boy, man, that sucker was huge. And I just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, pretty good.
So, the piriformis muscle, which one is that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Piriformis muscle, it runs inside your hip, effectively connecting your hip and to your spine.
Ooh.
It runs very close to the sciatic nerve.
Gotcha.
So it's one of those ones where if you mess it up, you are just trying to find any position you can that's not uncomfortable. And it's kind of difficult. It's a really, really irritating injury.
I've had sciatic trouble in the past, so I know exactly what kind of discomfort you're dealing with. Yeah, that's nothing fun. There was, again, going back to my 20s, I was working retail, and I had borrowed my dad's car. It was a smaller car than I was used to. And because I didn't want to mess with his steering wheel or his chair positioning, when I got out of his car, I kind of like did like a twisting motion with my torso, my upper body. Yeah. And I don't know what happened, but as soon as I exited the car, my lower body ceased working. I was like, oh, this is weird. Standing up hurt, bending over hurt. The only thing that didn't hurt was when I was on my hands and knees.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I got to make it to the store somehow. Got in there, worked through the whole thing, tried stretching. for days, I was just incapacitated. The only way I can get around the house was on my hands and knees. So I was like crawling out of bed, getting on the floor, getting to where I had to go to. I'm like, but even like trying to stand upright on my knees hurt. Oh, that was horrible. Thankfully, I haven't had it to that extent since then.
Uh-huh.
And even when I was wrestling, I never had that bad of it. I mean, yeah, I had like soreness and stiffness, but never to the point where I couldn't get up and walk. But I don't envy that at all, dude. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that.
Well, the funny thing is, I did it about 2 weeks ago, and it was just about healed up. And then Saturday, it was the weirdest thing. I just turned the wrong way, and all of a sudden, I just felt it. I was like, ah, shit, I'm back to square one. So, but yeah, it's I went online, I looked up. There's about 7, 8 stretches I found that whatchamacallit, they're all supposed to be good specifically to target the piriformis muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So between that and steady doses of NSAIDs, Aleve, yeah, it's just kind of it's making it as tolerable as possible right now. A question going back to your teeth.
Sure.
So your wisdom teeth are completely erupted, it sounds like, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Your wisdom teeth, are they completely erupted?
Yes, they are.
Okay, that's what I thought, because if they're just ripping them out like that, you were in the same position I was when I had my wisdom teeth yanked out, where literally they just numbed the hell out of my mouth. And whatchamacallit, they just were like, all right, I'm just going to, for me though, it was, he pressed down really hard on the tooth. I felt a weird pop.
Ooh.
And then he basically just yanked them out. And like they came out like super easy.
Oh, that's weird. There's no popping involved in mine, thankfully. But like I said, everybody's the root of your wisdom tooth grows differently for everybody.
Yeah.
So mine grew in. I know this is like fascinating for anybody who's listening. Like, get to the fucking show.
This is the show.
Yeah, pretty much. This is the foreplay. People relax. When my wisdom teeth finally came in, all 4 of them came in, thankfully, and there was no impaction, nothing that I had to worry about. There was a little bit of crowding going on, so I noticed some of my teeth kind of moved around a little bit. But the main thing that happened was, now when my teeth close, or my mouth closes, I have an open bite in the front. I've never had that before. So I developed like a slight lisp, which I've been, learning to deal with. Nothing crazy. I've been offered chances to go see some orthodontist and get some kind of like, mouth guard or mouth piece made up to kind of help retrain the teeth. Kind of like the, what's it called? The popular one, Invisalign.
Oh, okay.
Like a plastic mouthpiece that helps you to rearrange your teeth a little bit over time. They make different molds. You put them in overnight and it helps you out, different things like that. Otherwise, they always like, oh, you can always get what do they call the teeth that you get when to replace the not enamel. I can't remember the fake teeth that people get put over them.
Oh, wait a minute. What are you talking about?
When people get their teeth redone, quote unquote, they have like these not dentures, but they have these caps that are put over the teeth. They're essentially a little, kind of like dentures. I can't remember the name of them. Gosh damn it! And it's not like on the tip of my tongue too.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
When people get, like, especially in Hollywood, when people have to have their teeth redone, they have these little pieces that are put over, and they just show them having like straight white teeth, and all you have to do is take care of them and like soak them overnight. They don't replace your teeth; you still have your regular teeth underneath. But I'm gonna have to go right over this. Okay, never mind. It'll come to me eventually. But the option was to go through an orthodontist, get it checked out, and then they said, look, you might have to get the rest of your wisdom teeth removed if you want to address your bite, because otherwise that's the way your teeth are gonna, the area of your wisdom teeth is what causing the open bite to occur. So I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. Even now, a few days removed from the operation, I can still feel like on my right side my 2 wisdom teeth close, and when they close, I still have a slight open bite. It's just something you have to get used to, unfortunately, unless you want to get it addressed. And I'm not really prepared to fight with the insurance company over what's cosmetic and what's, painful and dire and necessary, because they draw a very strict line between the two. So this one was an emergency. I had to get taken care of because it started causing a lot of pain. So hopefully it's not going to be a humongous expense out of pocket for me. We'll see what happens. But that's going to be another bridge I have to cross when I get to it. But yeah, no, thankfully the other ones are currently in, and they don't seem to be causing any trouble right now, aside from the open bite. And that's minimal problem that I have to deal with right now. It's something I'm going to have to look into probably in the next couple of years and see what I want to do from there. But it already feels weird because I have this void in the upper left side of my mouth where that one wisdom tooth was, and I can just feel the gap where the gum kind of like used to house the tooth. It just feels fucking weird.
Yeah, it's going to take you a while to get used to the new shape of your mouth.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah, because I had mine out, and I think it was the summer of 2012. My God, how was that? 11 years ago now. Yeah, when I had mine out, because I had my wisdom teeth came in fine, they just came in a little crooked, so eventually they started to decay, and they decided they got to go. So it was one of those deals where because they did all four of them at the same time, and they were just like, let's just get these the hell out of there, and like then you could just heal up and you'll be good to go. So it was only like a week or so where I was like, I had to worry about it. Yeah, it was one of those deals where like for like weeks after that, I'd run my tongue around like my mouth and I'd be like, what the fuck is going on around here?
Exactly.
What the fuck? Yeah.
That's what I'm dealing with right now. Today, I've started to eat somewhat normal foods again, but even right before I called you up, I had to take my my painkiller just to make sure that I can make it through this. Because, truth be told, for anybody listening, I was gonna call up Doug or text him and say, "Hey, look, I'm in a bunch of pain. I can't really speak properly or normally." Not like that's anything new. Honestly, you've heard me skip over words and have trouble here and there, but I was going to take it easy this week and say, screw it. I'm just going to stay home, relax, and rest up. But then last night, before I was trying to go to bed, I was reading up that the deadline for the Screen Actors Guild was coming up. And a whole bunch of fucking nonsense got stirred up in the 11th hour between the Screen Actors Guild and the producers, or the studios, I should say, the AMPTP. And it just became a whole shit show. And I was like, oh shit, like if this goes, I can't just skip over it. By the time we get back to it, it's going to be like covered, and who knows, maybe hopefully they'll even resolve it. We'll see what happens. But essentially what it came down to, we talked about before in a couple of different episodes. My tablet really wants to talk to me today. On a couple of different episodes, that the Writers Guild of America has been on strike for more than 2 months now. And they're hoping to get something done. They're hoping to get a fair deal. Again, residuals for streaming, restrictive use of AI and training AI for creating and developing scripts. That's what they're looking for. And they've been on strike for over 2 months. Nothing has really come of it. Although something has come out recently, and though unofficial, some executives in the studios, and this could be like dirty tricks on either side. Somebody's saying that executives are claiming for the studios that their plan currently is to break the WGA. And by that, they mean let them run out of money, let them start losing apartments and homes and skipping payments and stuff like that, to the point where they're going to say to the leaders of the WGA, hey, look, we need money. Please go back to the negotiating table and we'll relent on a few things, more specifically residuals and AI. So the WGA would then be forced to accept a contract that they don't want, but at the very least, Hollywood would be started back up as far as writing scripts and developing story ideas. That's what the studios are looking to do. So they went and said, originally it was going to be Labor Day was the estimated length of the strike. Now they're saying through October, because that's when people will be like really hurting for cash. And then it'll be a very hard Christmas for a lot of people if it goes to that length.
Yeah.
So now, with the Screen Actors Guild, their original deadline was supposed to be June 30th. They decided that they were going to extend the deadline to July 12th to allow every opportunity possible to try to negotiate for a new contract with the studios. Well, last night at the 11th hour, the studios said, hey, we want to bring in a federal mediator to help us come to terms with this and hopefully emerge with a new contract. And that was just bullshit on the side of the studios, because you don't bring in somebody last minute to say, hey, let's have somebody, be the go-between between us. Now, the federal mediator would not be able to create a deal for them, would not be able to force either side to take a deal. It's just somebody going out there saying, yes, this would be fair. Yes, this would be in your best interest. That's all they could do. The fact that the studios waited until the 11th hour on a contract extension just means that they were just trying to play this out longer and longer. And at this point puts the ball in the Screen Actors Guild territory and saying, hey, look, if you don't want to do the mediator, that's on you. That's the optics is going to reflect that on you. And, that's something you're going to have to deal with. Well, Screen Actors Guild finally said, okay, we'll do the mediator. We'll let them come in and we'll talk. At the same time, we're going to have a vote and we're going to decide what we're going to do from there. They even said as much that that's a BS ploy that you're trying to, take on us, because everybody knows that you had months now to negotiate this new contract. For you to do this at this time is pointless. You're just wasting everybody's time, and what the hell is going on? I don't know if you know this. Fran Drescher is the current Screen Actors Guild president. So
yeah, I saw the video where she made the announcement. I was like, what the hell is Fran Drescher doing there? But yeah, then somebody's like, oh yeah, she's the president. So that's wild.
I have no problem with that. I've already been seeing people online going, wait, the nanny is the president of the Screen Actors Guild? That's stupid. And like, you know what? That's a character she played on the TV show.
Yeah, 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, let's not hold her to that weird character that she played, even that voice, because somebody even came across and said, hey, wait a minute, she doesn't sound like the nanny in real life? No. It's a character that was, granted, her voice sounds similar, but she affected it to a certain point for that character. So it's not like she's running around with that nasally voice the entire time trying to make these negotiations happen. That was one of the things that came up, and I just immediately saw people trying to make fun of her for it and make fun of the Screen Actors Guild for appointing her. I'm like, people, you honestly don't understand their business acumen behind the scenes, because a lot of the stuff for actors and for writers comes down to negotiations and contracts. And if you're not the one who's going to be negotiating the contract, you have somebody from the union or a lawyer do it for you. And they're very smart, and they'll teach you what you should be asking for and what you should be saying and what not to say. That being said, I'm sure Fran Drescher, who's been in the business for quite some time, probably has a good idea. Because for anybody who remembers the Weird Al Yankovic movie UHF, she's acting since way back then. I can't remember what her first film was, but that's one of my...
She was in Saturday Night Fever, dude.
There you go. So, yeah. Just to give you an idea how long she's been around.
45 years ago, give or take. Yeah.
So, for anybody saying, oh, the nanny, again, it's something that she became famous for. Good for her. She made money. She's getting residuals, whatever the case is. That does not mean she doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to negotiations for the union. But yes, so they tried to bring in the mediators. They said they were going to hold a vote today. So around noontime Pacific, they voted, and they already had voted something close to like 98%. Said, yeah, if we can't get what we want, and it's the same thing as the writers, they want residuals when it comes to streaming, and they want the restriction of using AI or training AI with previous TVs, movies, and whatever other footage to try to affect a CGI version of themselves. So they're lined up with the Writers Guild, and they voted, and they said, yeah, we're going for it. We're going to strike for the first time, and I think that they said 63 years. The Writers and Screen Actors Guilds are on the picket line together. And what this effectively means is that Hollywood is going to be coming to a grinding halt. Anything that was in the can previously has pretty much been used up in the past 2 months since the writer's strike has begun. Now with anything with Screen Actors Guild, that means anything going forward from tonight, I think this is the deadline that they voted for. So as of 12:01 a.m. July 14th, the Screen Actors Guild will be going on strike. And from there, that means movies, TV, any kind of like premieres or appearances, conventions. A lot of different things were brought up. I have a list of different things that they can and can't do at this point. And if they're promoting a big movie, they can't at this point. The guild has already said, we're all going to stand together. We're standing in solidarity. We're not just striking for ourselves, but we're also joining the Writers Guild, and we're going to, strike for a better contract, better pay, fair pay, however they put it. And at this point, everything is going to be screwed. So I know I was joking around with before, the return of reality television is a very real possibility, and that looks like more and more, because the Directors Guild, for anybody who's wondering, has already struck a deal with the studios, and it was never really disclosed what happened there, but they're happy with what they got, and they ratified the contracts, so the Directors Guild is still good to go. 2 out of the 3 guilds in Hollywood are on strike. How that's going to play out, it's going to be crazy to see what happens next. We had mentioned last episode some of the remaining movies for the summer movie season. As of now, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 should be in theaters already, and so far they've been saying it's been doing pretty well at the box office. Nothing crazy. They had readjusted numbers, and again, just like anything that came before it, they have a softer opening in mind for the premiere weekend. I think they have like a 5-day premiere because it came out on Wednesday night. The other movies coming out later down this month and next, you're looking at Oppenheimer, we mentioned. And what was the other one I was talking about? It literally just...
Barbie movie?
Barbie movie is one of them. There was another film after Oppenheimer that I thought... Oh, we were talking about the Marvels. That's November. Never mind. But yes, we skipped out. We skipped out on Barbie. You're correct. From,
okay.
Was it Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and Greta Gerwig, I believe, is the director?
Something like...
my tablet just wants to be part of the show today. I have to disable Siri. But yes, Barbie is one of the big ones still coming down the pipeline. For same day as Oppenheimer, correct?
Yeah, I believe they're both opening on July 21st, which is a week from tomorrow.
Which is very interesting because I've seen a lot of people prior to the strike happening talking about they're going to take in a double feature. And it's been starting to be called Barbenheimer. Have you heard this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I got confused for a second there.
No, it's fine. I just find it, I don't really go for the mashups a lot of times, but this one seems kind of funny because normally you would say, you're going to go watch Oppenheimer, the story of the bomb, the atomic detonation, everything else, and all the different characters that are played in that. And then you could go watch Barbie as a palate cleanser. No, apparently a lot of people are doing it the opposite way. They're going to go watch Barbie first, and they're going to watch Oppenheimer to nuke it out of their heads.
Literally.
Whichever way you want to go about it, these might be the last 2 big movies that we have coming out for July, excuse me. And that might just be like closing out the summer movie season from there. I think the only other one coming out that should have a pretty good opening is there's a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie from Seth Rogen and Nickelodeon. So we'll see what happens. Again, just damn. Never mind the tablet in the background. It's not part of the show. Just supplies resources. So getting back to Oppenheimer, and
yes,
we'll cover Barbie a little bit. You would have mentioned you're very interested in seeing, because you're familiar with a lot of the different historical figures that are being portrayed in the film itself, correct?
Yes.
They had a premiere today overseas, apparently, for Oppenheimer. To the point
I think it was in London.
Yep. And a lot of the different actors and people behind the scenes, like, agents, handlers, PR people, everybody was on edge today because they were waiting for the call for the strike to come through or not. Because one of the stipulations is if you're on strike, movie premieres out the window. And as they were on the red carpet, everybody was asking them, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What's going on with the strike? And just about all of them said, hey, look, we're all going to stand in solidarity. We're all going to open up and just say we want what's right. Because a lot of these people, you talk about the likes of Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., these are bigger name actors. I'm sure they're not hurting for money. But a lot of
Yeah.
people in the Screen Actors Guild don't make a lot of money. You got to remember the bit players that go in and do TV shows, maybe even commercials. They don't get paid a lot. And I think you have to qualify. If I remember reading correctly, they said you had to make at least $26K a year to qualify for the health insurance. So if you don't get that, you can't even qualify for the Guild's health insurance program or whatever the case is. So a lot of these people will work, but they also have to get on probably a supplemental job just to be able to get health insurance for themselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because you don't really think about the lower end of the Screen Actors Guild, because they don't just represent DJs, like puppeteers and excuse me, not just the actors, DJs, puppeteers, and like a bunch of other classifications that fall under the Screen Actors Guild. Also work to try to get whatever is required so they can continue paying their dues and continue being part of the group. That's what a lot of these people are saying, that they're all standing together for everybody, not just the top earners, but also for the people at the bottom, because everybody wants to get their fair share. So even though Oppenheimer was opening up for the premiere, even Nolan's saying that, look, I understand, like, the guild's the guild. He's part of the Directors Guild, so in this case, if they have to leave, they have to leave. He gets it. And it sucks for the premiere of the film. I don't know if many other premieres that are going to be taking place. The interesting thing that I want to see what's going to happen in the next couple of days. We're recording this on Thursday, the 13th. And today was the first day of San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. So anybody who is doing Comic-Con as far as appearances are concerned, again, if you're not doing a movie promotion, so let's say in the case of Cillian Murphy, if he was going to go to Comic-Con, let's say tomorrow, and have a panel regarding Oppenheimer, if he's promoting the movie, now that the guild's on strike, that's not allowed as far as the guild is concerned. So they ask him, please don't show up. Now, if Cillian Murphy wants to show up and do photo ops, just in general, just a photo op and get a picture with him, from Batman or from Red Eye, whatever movie you think you remember him from, go down, pay whatever exorbitant amount of money, and just get a photo op with him. They could still do that, but at this point, the guild's like, you know what? We'd rather you just not make it a personal appearance, because that also, tightens the screws on the studios more and more. Because if you're not showing up to do personal appearances, then once again, that gives us leverage when it comes to negotiations. So Comic-Con for San Diego is going to be affected in a big way, because a lot of people have been canceling left and right anyway, not just because of the strike, but because also other companies want to try to have their own unveils. So Disney is a very popular one. They have D23 in August. So they have their own little Comic-Con privately in Disney. They'll unveil shows, movies, and different things like that. But now the big question is this all going to be taken care of before New York Comic-Con come October? Because a lot of the different people who show up at Comic-Con also do personal appearances, photo ops, panels, everything else. Chris Evans sold out his photo ops within 6 minutes of them going on sale.
Yeesh.
And you've got to pay like $100 to $200 to stand next to Captain America and get a picture. Which I've had people say, hey, let's go Comic-Con, let's get a picture taken. I'm like, I'd rather sit down and have a conversation with them, and not like a 5-minute conversation, but like an actual conversation behind the scenes or off the clock. I don't see the point of paying ridiculous amounts of money. Not demeaning or disparaging anybody who does that. Like, if that's your thing, go for it. If that's how you want to, rub elbows with actors in Hollywood, by all means, have fun. That's if that throws you, go for it. But for me, any chance that I get to sit down with an actor, a creator of any kind, I want to know what they're thinking, and that's not going to be done in 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes. We spoke about the interview that we had with Mick Foley. Even that, we were covering his Santa Claus movie, and it was fun to talk about that and bouncing back and forth with him. But I'd really like to sit down with Mick Foley and have an extended conversation, kind of like what you and I are having right now, just to bounce ideas off and get a better understanding of where he comes from and what his thought process and creative process is. That's not going to happen at Comic-Con when you're under a time limit and they have to like get moved by their handler to the next place or the next location or the next convention, whatever the case is. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one?
There you go.
What are your thoughts as far as that? Like having like the bite size, like a good example is talk shows. When they go on the talk shows, whether it's Colbert or Conan or whatever the other ones are out nowadays, guests are invited on to the shows. And they're like, oh, we've got like 5 minutes before commercial break. Let's have a quick conversation. And then they may or may not come back to that conversation later on.
I mean, it's good for what it is. It's small. You're promoting one thing. You're not going to get super deep. It is kind of just what it is. It's a throwaway. I don't want to say throwaway. That's the wrong term for it. But it's the kind of thing that it's light enough. It's what you want to watch when you're getting ready to go to bed.
Yeah, it's bite size.
Yeah.
And that's all fine and good, but like I have a lot of friends who say, oh, let's go to Comic-Con and let's go talk to such and such. I'm like, if anybody who I want to talk to is not going to be able to have an actual conversation within 2-3 minutes before the person who's managing the line goes next, because I don't know if you've ever had anything signed at Comic-Con, they'll give you like maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and if you don't get your signature completed by then or your question asked by then, they just move you right along, because for them, the more people they can squeeze through in that allotted time frame, 1 hour, a half hour, whatever the case is, that's money coming in the door. And if you're going to sit there and try to hold up the line, that's money leaving the door that they're not getting. So they're like, no, we're going to try to get as many people in as possible and everything else. It's very clockwork at conventions, and for better or worse, I get it. I understand how it goes. But for me, if I'm going to actually have a conversation with anybody in the industry, I'd rather have a conversation than a hurried ask your questions and get out of the way.
Well, and that's just the thing right there. I mean, it really is just that. You're going to come here, you're going to get your thing signed, you're going to get your photo op, maybe ask one light question, and then move your ass forward because we got we got to keep this line moving. We got to keep the monies coming in because we only have so much time we can do this in. I mean, I think you remember the times we saw the autograph areas at whatchamacallit, New York Comic Con. They had those like the ropes up and security out the ass, and they had like those big like cordoned off areas, and then they had like the one area where they're moving everybody around back and forth and all that kind of shit. So but you think about it now, like the conventions have become such a moneymaker for so many celebrities, especially in this era when VHS DVD sales are all but dead with the streaming model, kind of going back to what we were talking about with the strike and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the new forms of revenue. That's basically where they got to make their money, especially on like William Ragsdale from Herman's Head and Fright Night. I don't think he's making a ton of money on other shit right now.
Well, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
I don't know why he was the first one that popped in my head.
No, but you're right. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of the things have changed recently. I was reading a story about Rainn Wilson from The Office.
Yeah.
So it was a poorly written headline, but he is, he wanted to be a movie star, but he ended up becoming TV famous. So one of the things he said that it was, he was wanting to make millions of dollars, but he ended up making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he went through a deep depression while he was on The Office, and he didn't want to be on TV anymore. He wanted to be a movie star, and it was like almost like a boo-hoo story. But at the same time, it's like, all right, you got to be on TV for about 10 years, steady work, steady paycheck, and you've filmed enough episodes. Yeah, you were supporting character on the show, but you got enough residuals that you're good for a while. Like The Office is one of those shows that's very popular when it comes to syndication, reruns, and especially streaming rights. So I don't think Rainn Wilson's going to be hurting for cash anytime soon. I don't say that he's rich beyond his wildest dreams, but he definitely has comfort money where he doesn't have to worry about where his next job's going to come from in the next few months or years, possibly. So he's one of the guys who benefited from the system as it was before we got into the current situation with the studios and the different contracts. So that's cool for him. But again, for people who don't have that, and there are people who are like bit players that show up on maybe 1 or 2 episodes of like CSI or I'm trying to remember any TV shows I used to watch, or any of the cop procedural shows. Those guys are not gonna have the benefit of the residuals and a big bank account and savings, whatever the case is, because those are the guys that are going out for auditions and going out for different things. In fact, one of the things I saw, one of the coaches that I interact with online for voiceovers, he's emphasizing right now, saying now is the time. If you want to get to work, the voiceover guild is different from the Screen Actors Guild. So they have an entire different group and different contracts and requirements. So if you're looking to get into voice acting, you're like, this is the time. Go out there and do what you got to do to get your auditions in, your demos in, because you strike while the iron's hot. If other people aren't going to be working, they're going to rely on different forms and medium of entertainment, and voice actors might be in high demand in the next 2 months. And he's not wrong. This is an ideal time, like especially during the pandemic. People were at home, so all forms of creative content were being called upon, because people were like if we can do this remotely, which a lot of voice acting is, then we can definitely put some lines together, put some art together, animate something, and put a show out, and nobody has to worry about coming into contact with one another. That was ideal during the pandemic. Now, especially if they're going to shut down, hey, go out there, do what you got to do, and hopefully you can find some work. Lord knows I'm trying. So we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But yeah, right now it's crazy. And like we mentioned before, 63 years since both guilds have been on strike at the same time.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to come of this. This one's going to be really, really interesting going forward. And once again, a lot of the different executives, and in fact, Bob Iger from Disney is saying that they have to come to terms with some of their expectations when it comes to what's going on with the strike and their pay that they're asking for. They have to be more realistic. The business is not what they think it is. And that goes back to what we were talking about with a lot of the streaming platforms not revealing their rating systems and how they, do their numbers, so to speak. I think that might have to be one of the things that has to get revealed eventually for them to finally say, hey, look, we're not making as much money as you think we are. Yeah, CEOs are getting paid lots of money. Yeah, CEOs are getting paid big bonuses, especially some of the studio heads. But I don't think they're as much money as the different guilds running around as freely as they're purporting that there is. I don't know. That's just me. But I definitely think that a lot of the different curtains have to get drawn back before we can say for certain that's one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I'm a little leery. Let's see what's going to happen, because if you watch the speech from Fran Drescher for the Screen Actors Guild, she was very emotional during her delivery of that speech. And I've already seen a few people online going, well, yeah, she's an actor. Of course it's going to be emotional. She knows how to deliver a speech. I'm like, yeah, you know what? There's a difference between delivering an emotional speech as a character, and there's also delivering an emotional speech because this is your livelihood. Like, your income is on the line, your retirement is on the line, your hopes and dreams for an easy future are out there. And again, not everybody in the Screen Actors Guild is filthy rich. For a lot of the people out there, they're just trying to make a name in Hollywood. And imagine right now being, let's say if you were just cast in a Martin Scorsese film, and they're like, all right, come to set, get ready, we're gonna do costume and makeup and everything else, and then suddenly production shuts down tomorrow. I'm like, well, fuck. Mm-hmm. If you're not a big name, there's a good chance that you might not get called back. You might get cut, or they might have to make changes, or who knows if the project even comes back after the strike itself. A lot of these things are up in the air. Not to mention the fact, I just said it right now, makeup, hair, costuming, all those other departments are currently out of work. It's kind of like what we were talking about with the talk shows. All the different people who work on the talk show scene, if there's no show, they're out of work. In some cases, they get taken care of by whoever's running the show. But other cases, there is not that much money to float around where they can keep everybody going week to week. So this whole thing is going to suck, and it's going to hurt a lot of different people, unfortunately. Because I remember there was one group of hair and makeup artists. They're like, oh, they're being selfish by going on strike as far as the writers are concerned. They shouldn't be doing this because if they do this, they're going to shut this down, and it's going to be like a domino effect. It's like, yeah, they're doing it for a reason. And you might not be in trouble as far as your income's concerned, but they're unhappy and they want to try to get their fair pay, at least what they believe is their fair pay. So try supporting them rather than rallying against them. That's kind of shitty on your part. But again, everybody has different circumstances. Everybody has different situations they're dealing with day to day in life. So hopefully this all gets resolved a lot sooner, because if they're saying Labor Day, October, maybe even past Christmas, it's going to be a very, very second half of the year for 2023 at this point. News networks are going to love it because they're going to have all their eyeballs as far as ratings and views with not much else going on, unless you're going to go back to catch up on a bunch of older stuff. I guess that's a good thing in a sense. If you have a backlog of shows or movies you want to watch, now's a good time to catch up on things because there's not going to be many more new things coming out.
That's the way I'm looking at it right now. I've got so much material to catch up on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing some video games while I've been home, just trying to catch up on backlog of stuff before delving into newer things. I'll watch a few things here and there, like I know we mentioned Secret Invasion on Disney Plus. That's something I've been watching week to week as it's been coming out. But aside from that, like whenever I see a new movie, I'm like, unless it's like a really big movie that I want to watch, I can hold off and I'll just go back to watch other stuff. Jen and I have been catching up on some old TV shows that we've like let fall by the wayside here and there. So from time to time, we'll sit down for like an hour a night, 45 minutes, and try to catch up on different things. Other than that, it's just like new stuff. Mostly anything that I'll watch that's new usually pertains to sitting down and talking about it here, or sitting down and talking about it with other friends when we meet up. That's about it.
Yep.
So let's see. I trying to look through.
Oh, quick question too.
Yeah,
something
sure.
else that jumped out at me. So as we've been doing this show, we've been back like not quite a month and a half. This, I think, is the third or fourth time you've brought up the strike. Why is this of such interest to you?
You know what? I've been asking myself that same damn question. It interests me only because I remember like when I was growing up hearing about different strikes when it came to Hollywood. But it's just like, it's the idea that you work in Hollywood and everybody just assumes that you're making it big. You're filthy rich. The fact that that's not the case with everybody. Like, you have to go out there, you have to be on shows, you have to be on movies, you have to hustle to get to where you're going to be. Otherwise, you can be, in one show one day and forgotten the very next. And there's not many people who think about that. If you're not on camera all the time, you're not making money. So for me, just hearing that the writers aren't getting paid a fair amount, that the studios are willing to do some underhanded tactics, like say, we don't want to restrict AI. We want to try to work it out on a year-by-year basis. Pretty much leaving it open-ended for themselves to say, we want to see how we can monetize AI and not have to pay writers or creators. So this whole back and forth between the studio heads and the creators, it's always fascinated me in some shape or form. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I could not really put it into words. But it's more or less, if I were to summarize it or generalize it, it's kind of like a struggle of good and evil in a way.
Okay.
Because everybody always says, greed is evil and greed is what's going to be people's undoing. But here are, workers, performers, actors, creators who are trying to fulfill their obligations and what they want to do in life as far as like storytelling or making things. And that's all they want to do. They want to have fun and obviously make money while they're doing it. But right now, it's with the ever-changing landscape on technology and streaming platforms and AI, everything else, it's always fascinated me when somebody's like, you know what? We as a group are not going to work until you pay us what we're owed or what we believe we're owed. And that back and forth struggle, for some reason, that it just always, it catches me for some reason. I don't know. But
Okay.
it's been the big thing, especially as it's come through the different news feeds. Like I said last night when they talked about the mediation from the third party, I was like, wow, this is playing out like a soap opera. This is this is dumb shit that's happening right in front of my eyes, and it's all just by me scrolling through Twitter and Facebook. So that's the best way I could put it. Really, that's the only reason.
Oh.
And don't get me wrong, I know that people are saying that, oh, you're just covering it because that's the hot topic that's the big news story. Yes, that's going to be the hot topic button for a while until this is all said and done. But at the same time, this show is predicated on a lot of different things as far as pop culture is concerned. So when the spigot, so to speak, gets shut off, yeah, it's going to be something to talk about. Yeah, it's going to be something to report on, because if we don't have, the latest Marvel movie or the latest horror movie, or even like take your pick as far as TV or movies, then it's going to be less news that we can talk about, less things that we can cover, and less things that we're going to say, hey, I like that, or hey, don't bother with this, I heard it wasn't that great. It's going to be interesting. Let's see what happens. And again, go back to, if the one thing we can fall back on is professional wrestling.
Oh yeah, they're still going.
Yeah, because the writers and performers are not part of any guilds, and even though they've tried their best to unionize over the past, decades at this point, nothing serious has ever come of it, and I don't think anything will. I think the closest that we've gotten to any kind of union or group of that nature would be AEW currently. And that's just the way that, the cons have been trying to handle some of the talent, but that's not everybody. I mean, they're not going to shell out money for every individual just because they have a sob story. They're trying to take care of people according to where they are on the roster, where they sit on the card, and how that translates into, return on investment for them. Safe to say?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So, I don't know. And this whole thing, like I said, the way it's going to shake up, not just Hollywood, because now things are going to slow down as far as new shows, new movies. It's part of the reason why James Gunn and DC, Warner Brothers Discovery, announced the new actors for Superman Legacy, because they wanted to get those contracts, at the very least, get them in place before the strike was announced. They were hoping that they can get that before the clock ran out. There's been a bunch of new names mentioned recently that have been added to it, which kind of makes the new Superman Legacy movie to be like not just a Superman story, but it looks like it's going to be a lot bigger world building for the new DC universe. Because they've added Hawkgirl, they've added Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, and a bunch of other characters look like they're going to be added to the roster. And it just seems like it's going to be a cluster of different characters. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. But all these different things are going to go and go until they can't go anymore. I don't know if you saw the recent picture of Hugh Jackman in his yellow and blue Wolverine costume alongside Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
Yeah, I saw that.
One of the big things for Deadpool 3 is they're filming currently. I don't know, as of tomorrow, they probably have to halt or, slow down whatever they were doing. But they were shooting according to the script, not allowing Ryan Reynolds to ad-lib or improvise like he normally does during shooting, with the idea that once the writer's strike is done, they can go back, do ADR, ad-lib, or looping, whatever they call, and maybe even do reshoots to finish up the film. So they're just trying to get what they refer to as principal photography done. So the bulk of the film is done, and anything that they have to change later on, they can do once the new contracts are hopefully in place. Everybody's kind of curious as to what's going to happen right now, because Deadpool itself, the the cool thing about Deadpool, the character, as far as live action, because he wears the mask the majority of the movie, it's easy to go back and ad-lib or ADR his lines because you don't have lip movements to match up. You just have like head bobs, kind of like Power Rangers. So every time he says something, he's kind of like nodding or shaking his head. If that's the case, it's easier to match up or sync up. You don't have too much work to try to get everything to look right. That's fine. But now, especially with the Screen Actors going on strike, they're going to have to stop that because it's a big production for Marvel and Disney. You can't keep shooting. I don't care if you are in Canada or overseas. At this point, you're kind of SOL. You have to shut down production. So I know I heard before, and I went back to look it up, anything under $3 million for budget is considered independent and they can continue working. So they're not going to try to shut down every single production. The low tier productions are going to continue. And of course, anything that's independent outside of the studio system can also keep working. So there's a bunch of things that are still going on. Broadway is another one that was mentioned in one of the threads I was reading. Broadway actors and performers are not affected by this because they have their own group. So if you're looking for a Broadway play, if you want to go entertainment, now's a good time to buy tickets for a play because they're still able to perform and go out there. So I know some friends went to go watch a live production of Sweeney Todd recently. So why the hell not?
Cool. All right.
I'm trying to see. Okay, so let me look up the one thing that I found. And I hope I'm not going to disconnect you while I'm doing this. Okay, this comes from This was an update from Variety, and it says, during the strike for SAG-AFTRA members cannot do the following: tours, personal appearances, interviews, conventions, fan expos, festivals, for your consideration events, panels, premieres and screenings, award shows, junkets, podcast appearances. Hey, we made it. Social media and studio showcases. That's just a smattering of what they're not intended to do right now. And they're not saying flat out like, no, don't do this. They're saying, hey, look, we're all going to stand together, and as a show of strength and solidarity and union, we should all band together and agree to not do these. I'm sure there's going to be a few people that go over the line or make slight exceptions, whatever the case is. I think there was something with Fran Drescher especially there where they saw her, I think the day before the deadline, she was spotted in Italy for like some media appearance for Kim Kardashian. And although she was getting crap for it online, it was reported that yes, she did go to this media event, and also it was also known well ahead of time, and it was a obligation she had made to whatever group or organization they had agreed to. So it was already something that was planned ahead of time, not like somebody called her day of and goes, hey, you want to come to Italy? Sure. Like, certain things will probably follow through to a certain extent. So by Friday, Saturday, a lot of that stuff's going to dry up and you're just not going to see it. Hence why I mentioned San Diego Comic-Con is going to be an interesting trip this year, because a lot of the people who were going to make appearances probably have to pull for them and saying, hey, sorry, we're on strike. I can't go against the guild's wishes and whatever the case is. So I don't know. Any bets on when this might wrap up?
I have no idea. In fact, I'm kind of surprised it's already gone this long because, yeah, both sides are going to start hurting. But now it's just a question of, it's a matter of wills. But, yeah, something else I wanted to point out, too. Little known fact, at the end of the month, UPS is getting ready to go on strike, last I heard.
Yes, that's another one that's coming up. I heard the negotiations for them was falling apart as well. Part of that being that they were asking for climate control, more specifically, air conditioning in their delivery vans and trucks, because there have been a number of workers who have died due to heat stroke while they're doing their routes. And I'm not talking about like somewhere here in New Jersey. Yeah, we've been having a few hot days here and there, but somewhere out like Arizona, if you're out in a brown truck that's made mostly of metal
Mm-hmm.
and you're in 110 degree weather and the sun's beating down on you, yeah, it's one thing to have your cooler full of ice and, water and dipping your bandana in ice water trying to cool you off. some of these guys don't even have that, or they don't consider it at first. So they're asking for like company supplied coolers, drinks, air conditioning, things that allow them to do their jobs comfortably. But recently, a lot of the delivery companies have said, oh, we're not going to give you all those things, but we're going to install cameras so we can view your activity while you're working to make sure that you're not slacking on delivery times.
Yeesh.
So, yeah, that's one of the things that you got to consider, especially when they put like a GPS tracker on you so they can see what kind of turns you're making. Because there was a study at one point where they're trying to find out the fastest delivery routes. And the fastest delivery routes, whenever you're going from the depot to your deliveries and back, so long as you're making the majority of right-hand turns, you'll cut down on a lot of times. I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, I'm sure they plan them out ahead of time before they leave the depot, but there's a science behind it that says you can do X amount of deliveries in under 2 hours if you follow this route. But at the same time, you're out there all the time. Some of these guys are like peeing in a bottle, not using the bathroom all day, skipping breaks, stuff that really shouldn't be happening. But because everybody's gotten so used to point and click, as far as ordering online, you just expect them to show up. You don't think about the guy who's dropping it off. Has had like a 3, 4, maybe 5 hour straight drive, just dropping off packages left and right, and probably dying of starvation, heat, when it comes to the wintertime, if they're not dressed properly, cold, whatever the case. So yeah, that's another one. Once again, people are saying that they should be properly taken care of, and I can't disagree. Like, if you're going to be out in ridiculous heat, yeah, you should cool off. Yeah, you should be able to have that. A lot of times when I see the Amazon truck that drives through our neighborhood, the guy drives down the road with the door open. I even stopped him one time. Hey, dude, your door's open. He goes, I know. It lets me get in and out of the truck faster. I was like, oh, fair enough. Sorry, as you were. Don't mean to slow you down.
Yeah, well, I mean, like everything gets measured with those guys, so, and those are all indicators on whether or not they're going to get a raise or if they're going to get shown the door. So, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, but that's also like people watching the bottom line a little too closely. Like, I understand shaving time off. I understand trying to get the best bang for your buck, so to speak. But I think there comes a point in time where you stop seeing the human aspect of it and you're just looking at the numbers. And that gets a little bit ridiculous. And I almost say, if that's the case, then the people who are coming up with these plans and implementing these rules, they should be out there on the delivery trucks and they should try it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe like the hottest month of the year, and say, oh, fuck, we need air conditioners. Right. That might be the way to go about it, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's screwed. And I know there's been a lot of talk when it comes to the economy about a recession potentially coming. A lot of people said that we're currently in it. I don't know at this point. It just seems everything's screwed up. And we talked about how inflation really isn't inflation recently. It's a lot more price gouging than anything else. People are just getting greedy, and with things going up and cost of living going up and up, how are you supposed to make up the difference when you can't get a raise, when you can't find a better job, when you can't take care of your bills? It's maddening. It really is. But again, people in Hollywood, they make money, right? It's all solved in Hollywood, everybody. It's all on the big screen, the little screen. But
exactly.
No, it's a very, very interesting one, to be sure. I just want to try to track it and see what happens, because a lot of the different projects that we like and that we enjoy are made in Hollywood, and when they're done right, we love them. When they're done horrifically wrong, we love them in a different respect. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. I sent you a text earlier tonight about a movie that I came across, and I don't know if you had a chance to look it up. It's called Late Night with the Devil.
No, I did not get a chance to.
Okay. I want to mention it on this one because I listened when I was watching Kevin Smith's Fat Man Beyond podcast. He and Mark Bernardin were talking about it. It debuted at South by Southwest back in March. And it stars David Dastmalchian. You might recognize him from James Gunn's Suicide Squad. He was Polka Dot Man. He was the crazy Joker follower that Harvey Dent almost shoots when he was flipping the coin in Dark Knight Rises. I'm trying to remember where else he was in. He was the Russian character in the Ant-Man movies, part of the security team. Are you recalling who he is? Are you familiar?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Late Night with the Devil is shown. It's presented in almost like a found footage way, not Blair Witch, so to speak, but it's supposed to be a TV show, late night talk show that is going on its 6th season, somewhere in there, and they're going to have a late night guest who survived a satanic cult whose members all committed mass suicide. And the way it's explained is it's very hectic. It's very low budget in the sense that you have like the back room or green room area, and then you have the talk show stage. So it's very limited as far as scenes or scenery. But the way it's carried out, if I remember reading the summary correctly, a historic event that happens on late night television allows the devil to come into millions of homes in America. It's supposed to be pretty gory. I don't know exactly what it is past what I read or what I heard so far, but I'm ready because it's David Dastmalchian, who normally plays a supporting character or background character. This is the first time he's going to be allowed to be a leading man in any kind of a movie. So I'm already in for that, but at the same time, it sounds like it got a really, really good reception at South by Southwest. And the more I read into it, the more I'm like, you know what? I think Doug should know about this one. So that's why I pass it along to you. You can look it up on Wikipedia. There's a bunch of information there. There's limited information on IMDb so far, and no talks about when it's going to be released just yet. It's making its rounds on the different movie festivals. So I'm hoping in the near future, maybe, who knows, maybe even by the fall, you might get a release and we'll get a better look at the movie itself. But I heard it's really good because at one point they're arguing during the footage that no matter what they do, they can't beat Carson. Carson's always beating them in the ratings. So it gives you an idea of round about when it takes place, what era of time. But
okay,
it's like that late night wars kind of feel of we got to come up with something that's going to really get the viewers. And this one guest who survives a satanic cult, I'm like, okay. Anytime you get like devil worshipping stuff in a horror movie, it gets kind of interesting to see where they can go with it and how they can handle it. So that's what I'm definitely looking forward to. And it's already been shot. It's already been written. So it's not like we have to worry about the strikes affecting it in any way. It just comes down to who wants to buy the distribution deals, both domestic and overseas. And hopefully it'll get some kind of release, if not just theaters, also hopefully on a streaming platform. And we'll see what happens. But I think that's about it. I think I've spoken through, and I think my meds have finally kicked in.
All right.
So, any new episodes of shows you've been on, or have those been on the back burner?
Say again?
Have you been on any recent episodes, like Wings on Wings, or any other shows?
No, I haven't been able to make it up for the recording, so they've had somebody else standing in for me as of late, which is fine. It is what it is.
Gotcha. Anything new that you've been watching recently, or just
this stuff I've been watching is stuff I've watched 50 times.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think I've beaten this strike thing to death today. For anybody who wants to follow up with more information on this, you can go to SAG-AFTRA's social media, whether on Facebook or on Twitter. That's what I've been following. So that's SAG-AFTRA, SAG-AFTRA. Don't ask me what the AFTRA stands for. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they've been posting a lot of different information and giving updates as far as what they can and can't do, what to expect as far as where to show up for picket lines, both in New York and on the West Coast, the different buildings for studios, Amazon, Sony, CBS, NBC, all the different places, Netflix. And they'll be posting up more information as it becomes available. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully they can all come to terms with something. And I'm holding out hope that whole story of we're going to try to break the WGA and let them run out of money and then demand that they renegotiate the contracts. I hope that's all a bunch of BS and was just created for leverage sake online somehow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't want to think that there's people out there that are that evil that they're going to let somebody starve to death before they are willing to renegotiate a contract. That's kind of evil in my mind. But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
we'll see. And as always, as things come through, we'll cover more and more. Again, Oppenheimer's still coming out soon. Barbie's coming out soon. A lot of people have been talking about that one. Barbie actually stirred up some controversy recently because they depict a world map, and again, it's the depiction of China and Thailand caused some controversy once again. I don't know. So Barbie might not get a release overseas in certain areas. We'll see how that happens. And then we've talked about how Oppenheimer, that story, might not get released overseas in certain areas, obviously. But it might be the last big hurrah of this summer movie season, with Barbenheimer being the mashup hashtag. It's still kind of weird when I say it. Never thought that would be the case, but hey, if it works, it works, right? All right, sir. I think I've pretty much talked myself out. I'm going to go lay down for a little while. I'm all numb and sore. At the
That
same
sounds like a
time.
good idea. Go get some rest. Yeah.
Well, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. My name is Eric Hernandez with...
Doug.
Thank you very much for joining us. We are the Rabblecast.